Hello everyone, it's Banana Man again. Second video I'm producing today is going to be around fighting. Now, I'm sure you could probably talk to 20 people who would give you 20 different opinions on how to set up for fighting. I'm just going to give you my opinion. I've played the game for a little bit, been reasonably successful, but there are people that are much better than me. They have better setups, they have better officers, they have better blueprint setups, spray. A lot of it is really how much time and a lot of it is how much money do you want to spend on it. So I'm just going to give you kind of my um, basic overview, and what I like to do for these first few videos is really go over the topic of fighting, and then I'm going to cover 5 subtopics and I may add a couple to it as we're going along in the video, but the main focus is how officers, research, building, command bonus, and your Air Force help with your fighting setup. So I'll start first with officers. The first is pretty obvious. Your marching officers really have a big effect on that. So you can set your formation when you go over here to the parade ground. You see unit details, formation, and go to formation 1. This is my basic setup that I use for officers. Now, every time before deep, I go in and I make sure I set this and I have everything layered up so that I'm ready to fight. But obviously, this is the first way that officers help, and I'll kind of dig a little bit into officers and how you want to set those up. When you look at an officer, you'll see this leadership number. Leadership number is really, in addition to your buffs and your parade ground, which sets your march size. Each officer has a leadership number, and that's how many troops that they add bringing into the battle. So you have Snow Fairy here. She brings in 60,200. Kung Fu Maid, she brings in 43,700, but she also has a buff where it says Legendary Leader, which is where she boosts the numbers of those other officers, the leadership numbers. Now, where that number comes from is that level. You'll see you see her rank effect, she's 12, she's 5-star, level 87. As that level goes up, that leadership number goes up, and that officer brings more troops into battle. And then if you buff that number or get that number up, for example, to 120, it's 60,200, but bringing Kung Fu Maid obviously boosts that by 180%. So that's really how you look at bringing more troops into battle using that officer. Another way the officers help in fighting, we talked about the deployment. We talked about how to boost the size of your march. They help in your command bonus and your assignment here. So when you go to the assignment center and you hit assign, you've got some officers where it says where's the boost? Army Commander, for example. Army Commander is Spencer is boosting my basic deployment size, which is the march size. So you want to make sure that you have a military officer in here, such as Spencer, that boosts that deployment for you. So that's one place that you can also utilize those officers. Also, if you look under assignment, there are some technology officers that can help you with fighting. So you have someone like Wendy, for example, who has this buff, Raising Army, and Raising Army basically helps you by boosting unit attack. So even though you're not marching her, you want to put her inside your assignment because she's going to help with that. Now, what I can also do, because what I have here, I've put this officer, Silent Night, in here because it was a military point reduction day. So you're able to use some of the points, some of those logistics points and things. We're able to use those. So I put her in this spot to help do a reduction for me. But ideally, before I start fighting or going to deep, I'll go ahead and put Mother Frost in here. And what she's going to do is give me other buffs for for fighting. So you just have to be cognizant of that and make sure that if you're gathering and it's not deep time, that you have the proper officers in there for that. And then, but during fighting, you want to make sure you have those fighting officers assigned in your assignment center. Now, moving over to command, there's another way they help you, and that's by assigning them into these command. Now, if you have a high level of your commands slots unlocked, you have a lot of different ways that you can boost this. So for example, I'll go into commando. If you have the right officer set, and we went over this in video 1 in command, you'll see I have the basic buffs, and I'll have the other buffs unlocked because I've put these officers in here, and right now I'm slowly raising their level. So I've got 12 on one, 60, 60, 80. As I raise those, these buffs obviously go higher. Also, when I do an upgrade, for example, I can upgrade here with feet because I'm at level 0. Those, you'll see that those buffs start to go up. Now I'm out of feet, so I can't upgrade that anymore. But you'll see the buffs that affects. Also, there are some really good ones up here. So you have this commander. I can't upgrade this one anymore. And I put all the right officers in here. This one I have primary and secondary officers I can put in there. But I have another one that increases rally capacity, increases deployment capacity. So deployment capacity is how many troops I can send in the march. So that's another way to increase that. Now this is a really good buff also because this is basically buffing all my different troop types in their attack, defense, and HP. So those are really good buffs when you can get those that buff everything. For example, you have strategist here, and I've got the proper officers assigned. Still need to level up a lot of them, but this one has unit attack, unit defense, and unit HP. That's pretty much that. When it says unit, that's the same thing as all 4 of your different troop types. That's what that's buffing for you. So that's a really good buff. When you can get 68% all the way around, that's a really good buff for you to get. So you want to keep that in mind. So that's how your command officers, just look through them, and that's how they can affect your your fighting as an officer. Now, if you don't have many officers or you don't have many high level officers, you can move those around also. Maybe you can only have enough officers or stars to fill 2 or 3 different command slots. You can move those around depending on whether you're fighting or you're farming. So it could be that you're farming for the next 10 days, so you want to move those around so that it boosts your gathering capacity and gathering speed and things like that. So you can play with those if you don't have enough officers in there to boost that. So I'm going to probably create a separate video on officers just because there's so much that you can go over with them, so much you can talk about with the buffs, but that's really just a rough guideline of how officers can help your fighting. Just the one last thing I want to touch on with officers. It's typically good. 9 times out of 10, your S-class fighting officers are going to be better than all the other officers. They're just going to offer better buffs. Really what you want to look at whenever you're setting when you're setting your officers, you want these officers that buff unit as much as possible. You don't want to send officers into the march that don't buff every single one of your troops. So the more you can get unit buffs, the better. So that's just a general guideline I've gone by. Moving on, let's look at research, how research can help. Research is huge for fighting. I'll kind of give you an example of a battle report so you can kind of see how that helps. So we'll open this one up. This was fighting for core, and I'll kind of show you technology. That's the buffs for your tech, and as you can see, this is one of the guys on our field who's got a lot of good technology against another guy on our field. This is kind of 2 rallies against each other, and everyone has really good buffs. So you'll see the one on the right is the guy that was attacking. So he almost has everything maxed except for some of those elite ones, which are really expensive. to get. But so, and you've got some of the defending buffs you can see on the left that really help. So not only are you getting fighting buffs from technology and research, what you're also getting is the ability to carry more troops into battle. You can also boost the attributes of the officers that are going in, and I'll show you how that looks. So when you go into research, you go in the bottom tier here, attribute enhancement. So that's another way that you can enhance attributes of different officers. So you want to get a lot of those attribute enhancements. You'll see this one I finished, and this is enhancing the attributes of some of your flag effects and your command class. I think that's what it's called. I'll open this up so you can see, or the commander. So if you've picked Dark Assassin, it boosts all of these different attributes. So this is also another way for officers. I'm just kind of stepping back how you can boost their fighting effect. This is these different attributes here help out as well. So you go here, you have precision technology, which is where you use those military points that I was talking about earlier, because I basically assign officers based upon if they can reduce these military points whenever there's a special event. So all this technology, this definitely helps. You want to make sure everyone has different philosophies on how quick they need to, or which order they need to research these in. It really just depends on what you want. I mean, if you have a battlefield that's not at war, and you think you have time to grow without having to, get 4 marching attack officers as soon as possible because, you're getting attacked weekly, then stick to your resource and your core and development and start to grow that foundation first. But if you can't do that, you want to really balance out how you're growing here. So next, I'll go into building, how your buildings can help. Your buildings can help with your fighting in a few different ways. Obviously, you have your parade ground, which this is where you can promote troops. And this is where you set your formations, which is really important. So I have a formation that's used for gathering resources, and then I have a fighting formation. I don't have 3 formations yet. That's what you can get from some of the more advanced research. Also, when you look at some of these buildings, like the prison, which I don't have at a very high level, you see when you click on more info that it gives you buffs. So unit attack, unit defense, and unit HP, you'll see that you have you can go all the way up to 30 on these. Now, for me, it's just it's expensive to get the barbed wire, and for the extra 15% buff, I just haven't spent the money to get the barbed wire or spent the resources to get it. But a lot of these buildings, when you go through, will give you buffs towards fighting. For example, you go to this defensive line. If you start constructing after you do a rebuild, you can see down here you start to get defensive buffs. So a lot of your buildings will give you buffs for fighting. You just need to look and see. Just click on them, click details. It really talks about what you get offered there. And then if you go down and you start doing rebuilds, you can see reinforcement, attack, defense, and HP down here for level 1 is 20%. You can get some buffs on some of the rebuilds. So buildings can really help with your attack as well. And like I said, parade ground, this is the most basic way. Once you let me go to the details here. This increases your march size. So you see deployment capacity there. Basic levels 152, but there are some buffs that I have that raise that up. So that shows that green number is showing the buffs that I'm getting from, whether it be research or officers. Okay, command bonus. I did talk about that. I kind of mixed that in with officers, but we went over this, how we can use this command bonus, and then if you need to switch some officers around, you can for when it's fighting time. Next is Air Force. Air Force is pretty That's pretty huge. People spend a lot of money on Air Force, so um, you need to make sure you have the plane garrisoned as your warplane so that it chooses it as default. Also, what that means is if you get attacked, regardless if this airplane is out or not, you're going to be able to utilize these gears to help you whenever you get attacked. So if I send my Air Force away and I'm attacking someone and someone else comes in and hit me because I have this Air Force garrisoned, it's still going to defend for me. So if I spent a lot of money and I had a lot of the defensive gears on here, I would probably during wartime I would garrison a defensive plane and then I would just fight with my regular plane. I would set that in my formation. So um, I'll show you what I mean by that. Garrison settings. If I had another plane that had um, defensive gears maxed on it, I'm probably going to choose that plane and garrison it in the war zone because I would want that to be defending specifically. And then in my formation, when I go out to the parade ground and I set a formation here, I'm going to make sure that my warplane that's my plane that has my offensive gears. So it's just something you could play with, especially if you're a more advanced fighter and you have a lot of different gears and you believe that your defensive gears are better on another plane. So, for example, I've got these Guardian here, but I don't have enough. These are just some random gears I've got from events, so I'm not going to really garrison that plane. But moving into the plane, you'll see here there's several different ways to improve this Air Force. You've got the Air Force attributes. This is your tree that goes all the way down. You want to make sure that you're going straight down as quick as possible first, because the more you start to increase these attributes, the more expensive and the more tactical points it takes to do it. So you get down and want to get these special, like I wanted to get combo quickly and get that over with as cheaply as possible before I start enhancing these other attributes. So you can improve your Air Force that way. You go into intelligence. You have your Air Force chips. You can play around with those. I can probably do another tutorial on how to upgrade these chips. Then you have your Air Force remodeling, which is where you have some of these boost points. You'll see I can right now I can boost by 10 here, and it sits there and continues to boost this plane, and I'll run out pretty soon of these boost points. I probably should have spent the money on that special event to go to 4-star, but so you can promote these planes and it takes entire planes. So you'll see I'm 0 out of 20 on these, so it would take me 20 airplanes to go to the next level to 5-star. So I would need that, and I would need to upgrade this to boost that plane. Now going back, you have let's see, I went over the chip. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back and look at the gears. So these are big. You want to go through these, and what you'll see on this one is you'll see the basic buffs, basic attributes, and then you'll see appraisal attributes. Now that happens once you click this appraisal button. Now I'm not going to do that right now because I have what I think is the best option out of all of these, which is unit. So when it says inner server, commando, and all those, that's just when I'm fighting people from other servers. When it says unit, that's fighting at home, that's fighting on other servers, and that's covering every single one of my units. So that's a much better buff. So once I get that, I'm going to keep that there. And it's gold level, which is the highest level you can go. It probably took me quite a few times to get there. And then I made sure that I promoted that one all the way to 80, because you'll see I've got unit HP, unit attack. Those are good buffs on the basic buff, so it was very well worth bringing this to 80 quickly. And then you've got your gear effect, which is when you use all of your gears. So pay attention when you do that. All of these I don't have gold. I mean, some of them I probably used way too many magnifying glasses as I was trying to appraise these. And then finally I stopped on, okay, I guess I'll take a gold one here. But it would have been nice, when you look on, not enhance the attributes, but when I do appraise, I would have loved to get that unit HP up top. That's what I was going for the gold. And sometime I'll probably sit down for the time it takes to go through and hope I can get one of those. But that's what you want to do. You want to go for those gold attributes. So that's your Air Force, and how that can use for fighting. There's like I said, this is not exhausting, and there's tons of other things we can talk about. I'll just hit two other small subjects for fighting that can help you. One of those is your blueprints. I'll probably do another tutorial for this. This is just another one of the buffs that you can affect. And the other one is going to be your spray, which you go into your command or your camp and you hit enhance. You can see your spray on any of those. You hit your skill. Now this one I can enhance down at the bottom right. You see I have the spray down here, and I can bring that because I've done the remodel on this thing. So spray is huge. So you want to make sure you get a lot of spray, and you enhance. See down at the bottom, I'm already level 30, and it says max for my artillery. I could hit that convert button, and you have to pay to buy a ticket, and then you can start to increase the buffs even more. You also have skill books that you can buy, that you can increase with as well. Now, again, like I said, with helicopters, I did that. I already did that remodel, so I can move this buff higher and higher. So that's why you're seeing that. So that's going to be it for part 2, and that's for fighting. My next one is going to be building, and that's basically upgrading your building. So I'll see you on the next video.